This is by far the most important thing that you should do before picking up a property. It's market research. And in this video, I'm going to show you how. This is probably the most high level and most valuable thing I've ever taught on this channel. Probably for free. This is insane. Welcome back, Airbnb family. I cannot believe I'm actually going to show you this. This is super sick. I've discovered the most important data that you could ever find to do market research, and it's sitting here on the Airbnb platform for free. You have access to this data for free. You don't have to pay for like AirDNA or all the rooms or Mashvisor or anything. I'm gonna show you how to pull this data out of Airbnb and use it. And one of these things is absolutely brand new to me. Like, it's now new to my market research method. I was teaching one of my Cracking Superheroes students in a Zoom session, like some nuances about what I teach for market research, and I tripped over this like extra piece of data. I'm going to be using this forever, by the way. That could be the transaction. Like, I'll exchange you this gold for a like. Thanks in advance. So let's put up some screenshots. There are two important parts of market research. One is the broad brush, going over hundreds of listings at one time and looking for data and trends within the data. And then there's individual listing data that you pull. You like go through a fine-tooth comb and like pick individual listings and look at stuff, ones that are relevant. So in this video, I'm going to teach you the broad brush market research stuff. And yeah, and perhaps I'm giving you this for free as a subtle flex that there aren't really any other gurus on the planet who know this stuff. And so I'm going to give it to you guys as a gift, just to show you that no one else actually knows what they're doing. So first screenshot, let's set the environment for our market research. We're using my neighborhood. I live here in Dallas, Victory Park at Dallas, right next to American Airlines Center. So that's what the screenshot is. Now, what we are doing to set up our initial search parameters to start to get the data that we need. We're selecting Instant Book and Entire Place, right? Those are the two filters that we're selecting. Then we're zooming in to an area of the map that's relevant, and then we're checking the box, search as I move the map. It's checked by default, we're unchecking that. Now we're gonna search for 3 guests without dates, and voila, our first search. What we're going to see now is in the top left, above where all the listings are, you're gonna see a number, 300 plus stays. The first thing you need to know is that Airbnb caps out their search results at 300. That's the sample size max. Now this is going to be important if you want to start getting like relative data. Like, you're going to search one set of data and it's going to spit out a number like 200 or 250, and then you're going to do another search and it'll spit out 25, 50, 100. That's going to matter. Right now we're going to start with this over 300 thing because we're going to get to the rest of it here by the end of the video. Now the first search that we're going to do is to search for some dates. We're going to pick a 2-date range in the immediate future. It's mid-February, and the next available weekend is the 25th through the 27th, so we're just going to search that. What we've just done is we've done a search comparing the total number of listings in the area versus the total number of listings left in the area this coming weekend that are available for 2 nights. And out of the over 300 listings that are in my neighborhood, only 6 are available for a 2-night stay this weekend. That means that they're either booked or blocked, essentially. So well over 90% of all the available listings in my area are booked or blocked for this coming weekend. That lets you know that there's demand. We've just established demand in this neighborhood. That's step 1. If you look at this big picture, if you find an area that has tons and tons of listings, right, it might seem overwhelming because there's 5,000 listings in the area. Well, if all of them are booked, that means demand has met supply. But if you find another area that only has, say, 200 listings in the whole city, and only 20 of them get booked, then supply is greatly outsized compared to demand. There's not enough demand for the little supply that there is. So it's actually better to find a place that is fully booked regardless of how many listings there are, as opposed to a place with less listings. Okay, so that's food for thought. But this first search gets a little bit more curious. Let's make a minor change. Let's search for 3 days instead of 2. Well, now that we've searched for a 3-day stay, which is more days that need to be available, all of a sudden the supply goes up. Goes from 6 to 7. What that tells you is that out of the available listings, some of them have a minimum night stay of 3 days or longer, where some have a minimum night stay of 2. If we search for only 1 day, we might even show that there's less available listings because of a 2-night stay minimum. What we're about to look for next is how much supply is available based on certain search parameters, minimum length of stay. So let's jump into June, and we're going to search 1 day, June 14th, just that night. We're going to find that we have a certain amount of listings available. That is 47 doors are available for 3 guests for 1 night. Still Entire Place, still Instant Book. Naturally, we're going to change this to a 2-night stay, and that supply goes up from 47 to 58. That means that there's an increase of 11 listings available that have a minimum of a 2-night stay. So 47 doors are available with a 1-night minimum length of stay. Another 11 are available with a 2-night minimum. We search again for 3 days. We're up to 67, which is another 9 doors available that have a 3-night minimum. So of the 67 doors available for this date range, 9 are 3-night minimum, 11 are 2-night minimum, 47 are 1-night minimum. What you should do is you should average this out. Search every week in May. Right now it's February, so February, March, April, May. Less than 3 months out is probably optimal for this. And so search every week in the 60 to 90 days into the future range, and do this midweek kind of search where you search for 1 day, 2 day, and 3 day, but do it for like 4 sets. Search for 1 day, 2 day, and then 3 day, and then you're gonna search for 4 weeks in a row, which is gonna give you 12 total data points. You wanna put this into a little spreadsheet. Now you're gonna take, for that month of May, in this example, of the 4 days that you search for 1-night stay, how many showed available, right? You're gonna take the average of that number. Then the 2-night sample size, you got 4 data points for that, take the average of that number, and then the 3-night minimum stay search, you're gonna have 4 data points, take the average of that. This shows you relatively how many listings are available with minimum length of stay requirements in your neighborhood. Now this data can be used to help you develop a strategy on how you're going to get booked if you enter this market. You can overlay this data into other searches and start to get more robust looks at your market research data. Let's actually go to the next search, and I'll give you an example here. We're gonna search for 4 guests instead. This is gonna be the first time that our non-date specific search result brings less than 300 doors. We only have 249 doors available for 4 guests in my neighborhood. All of the search parameters are the same. Now we know for about every 70 doors that are available on Airbnb, 20 of them have minimum length of stays. So of this 250 door count that we have roughly, about 33 of them might have a 3-night minimum stay, and about 45 of them, roughly maybe 48 of them, have a 2-night minimum stay. And so basically what we have here is we've got about 170 doors-ish that have a 1-night minimum stay of the 249 available. Just something to know as you continue to search. That though is unimportant for this next reason why we're doing this search. We're gonna switch that count from 4 to 5 and see what happens. When we switch to 5 guests, you're gonna notice that the supply drops from 249 all the way down to 120. That is a huge drop. This is important because we've already established demand, right? I'm gonna help you guys connect the dots here. This is where it gets really cool. We just searched before. Without dates, there's over 300 listings available. And then with dates, portfolio-wide in my neighborhood, there's only 6 or 7 doors available for a 2-night or 3-night minimum stay. That means everything's getting booked. Well, if there's 249 doors that can have 4 guests and they're all getting booked, but then only half as many doors can have 5 guests, if you think about the relationship between group sizes and travel here, we are extrapolating, but if you look at that relationship, it starts to not make any sense, right? So for every individual that travels, there's going to be less groups that travel. But when you think about group sizes, for every group of 3, or for every 100 groups of 3, there's probably 80 or so groups of 4. For every 80 or so groups of 4, there's probably still 60 or so groups of 5. For every 60 or so groups of 5, there probably still is 45 or 48 groups of 6, right? That should be a more linear curve down. You don't see, like in a neighborhood like this, 100 groups of 4 and then 10 groups of 5 traveling, right? It doesn't drop off like that. You can make some assumptions here about the curve of demand. Then when we go search for 6, we drop down to 70. We go from 249 to 120 to 70. Well, 70 is 30-ish% of 249. You add 2 people to your group and there's only 30% the available listings. That is pretty wild. What we're seeing here is in a market where everything is getting booked, that groups of 6 are underrepresented by probably a factor of 2, meaning that a listing that can host 6 people will outperform by a factor of 2. 2 times as many views, twice as much booking conversion, 2 times as many full rate reservations. Whatever your rate is, you should expect to get twice as many bookings at full rate before you start having to adjust your prices. We jumped the search to 7, and now we're down to 24 doors available for 7. Now this does make a lot of sense thinking about this neighborhood. So I'm in Victory Park, and behind this camera that I'm talking to is a skyline full of high-rises. There's a lot of 1-bedrooms and a lot of 2-bedrooms, and the floor plans aren't really that large in a lot of these apartment complexes. And there's definitely not houses. There's no houses in this neighborhood. We're right next to the American Airlines Center. So if you think about places that sleep 7 people, usually that would be a 3-bedroom. And there's really not that available in this neighborhood. There might be some floor plans for 2 bedrooms here where you can have 2 queen beds and maybe another queen or a king in the second room and then a sleeper sofa in the living room. There probably are ways to be able to sleep 6, 7, 8, even possibly 9 people in a 2 bedroom in the larger floor plan units here in this area. But they're highly hard to come by, I'm imagining, and that's why they're not in the space. So if I was going to come to Victory Park here and I wasn't going to compete with my typical studio apartment strategy because we're right next to American Airlines Center and that would make a lot of sense, I would try to, in this case, get 3 bedrooms if they're available, but otherwise the largest floor plan 2 bedrooms I can get my hands on and try to sleep 7 people. I would be carving out a piece of the market that is highly underrepresented and would make me a lot of money. What I also know is here in Victory Park, because 30% of the listings available have a minimum length of stay of 2 or greater, I can charge a higher premium for a 1-night stay because I have less competition at 1 night. And I can start to give 2-night or 3-night discounts to start to compete with those other listings. But where there's an absence of supply for 1 night, I can charge a premium. And that might actually work out to a better end of month revenue strategy than just maintaining a 3-night minimum stay like everybody else. Now, this next search metric I'm going to give you is actually not new to me, but it's in my course. And I've just added a lot of new, really cool market research stuff to the course. So I'm going to actually pop this into the free category because my students are still getting a lot of really awesome stuff. So this I'm going to give to you guys for free now, which it normally wasn't. And this is how to determine what everyone is making like market wide in real time. It's really cool. Otherwise, you'd have to pay for this data. You could go to All the Rooms or AIRDNA and start to pull this data, but they can't give you future data. They only can give you back data. This is the only way to get future data of what other people are making. Okay, this is really tight. So let's redo that initial search. 4 guests, Victory Park, entire place, instant book, 249 listings. But now let's click the price button. The price button has a drop down. It has a chart with a slider on it. Those sliders can show you what price point is at the bottom, what price point is at the top. And these bars represent the total number of listings at these price points. And so this is like a distribution chart showing you all of the prices for all of the listings in this search sample size. Now, if we go and we change the dates or change the guest count or anything, these prices will start to change. And now we can start to compare those price charts and start to see what's getting booked and what's not getting booked. So now if we do a search, March 4th currently is 2 weekends away. We did a 3-day stay, 4 guests, and 85% of all the listings are booked right now. 85% of the inventory is gobbled up, but we want to know at what price. So now let's look at that chart again. That distribution chart in the price section now is missing a lot of data. We care about the missing data. So let's look at what data still exists and what prices are vertical here. And we can compare it to the other chart and what was vertical in that other chart and compare them. All the data that is missing are all the listings that have been booked. And the data that is missing now are the prices for the listings that have been booked. So what we see here is the more expensive listings are getting booked. There's a huge quantity of bookings that have happened at above the $120 per night price point from what I'm looking at here, which is really awesome. The only listings that are left are going to be rare listings that are too expensive, maybe too new and expensive, or have bad reviews and either are expensive or just really trash listings is what we have here. So since there's only 15% of the data available, what I'm going to do with this data is I'm going to wait. I'm going to do this search in a week again, and I'm going to look to see what is left last minute for this as well. So what this will show me is I've got 3 data points. I've got what's totally available, what is available 2 weekends from now. And I mean, if you're impatient, you could do another search for this coming next weekend, right? And what you see is the rate at which things are getting booked. What prices get booked first? What prices get booked last? I could go on for 45 minutes about this part, like literally. And that's why it's in my course. And that's why a lot of the stuff, my market research and my competitor analysis is in the course, is because we do a 4-hour Zoom call every Saturday where my students ask me questions about the data that they're finding. And a lot of this data, it's not just having the data, but it's interpreting the data that allows you to make the right decisions on which properties to pick up. And when you're new to this kind of stuff, you may not know how to interpret the data, right? And that's okay. If you're new here, that's fine. I've got guys who've got 60 plus properties that still have a hard time understanding what this data is telling them. And that's why mentorship is just as important as this free content that you're getting. So in this case, to get back to the point here that you can use is that we found listings that are getting booked. And we're finding that listings a month from now are getting booked at certain price brackets if we do the search. And that last minute, the stuff that is available very, very last minute, the stuff that is not booked like today or tomorrow, is the stuff that gets left behind. So now you can start to extrapolate what listings are getting booked, what price points they're at, and other factors like what sizes they are. And then the stuff that's getting left behind, you ask yourself, Is it because there's not enough demand to book this stuff? Or is this stuff really just so bad that people aren't booking this stuff? Or it's just such an inappropriate fit? If it's priced out of the market or if it's poor quality, you can still argue then that maybe this area of town has more demand than supply, but they also have standards. So instead of booking in this neighborhood, they've decided to go other neighborhoods nearby to get the price that they want or to get the listing quality that they want. So you can start to ask yourself the real questions here. And this is how you find an underserviced market. Even if there's 1,000 listings in a neighborhood, if all the relevant listings are getting booked, now you can use this data. So real talk, if you want all of my techniques for market research, you want to know absolutely everything that I do to start pulling the relevant data, including my individual listing data research stuff, my competitor analysis stuff, that is in my full course, Cracking Super Pros. This is not necessarily easy stuff to learn. And we do 4-hour Zooms every Saturday where people come to me with data that they're looking for. They're trying to do this research. Maybe they had a couple mistakes that they made, or they're missing very key data that will really tell them a story. The data tells a story. And I've done this a lot, right? Some of this is new, like I'm showing you some brand new stuff in this, but I do this a lot. And so having someone to bounce that off of and somebody to really coach you through interpreting the data, I think is super important. So that is why I am mentioning my course in this video, where I typically never do. So just take that for what it is. Otherwise, also valuable. I have a free group, the hosts of Airbnb Automated on Facebook. It's an outstanding group full of very smart students of mine, a lot of them who learn for free right here on this YouTube channel, some who are in my paid stuff, but there's a lot of really smart people there. So as you do some market research, as you're using this video, if you want to talk to other hosts about what it all means, and you don't want to pay for a course because you don't have to, talk to my students and the host of Airbnb Automated for now. Do that, and you can get a lot of the value here from that. So I really hope that this video gives you everything that you need to be successful, picking up the right properties, finding the right cities to do Airbnb in, and of course finding the right types of properties. This stuff is fire, guys. And if anything, I guess let's just exchange a like and a comment for the value you got in this video. I really hope it helped you guys out. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you on the other side.